2 years, I believed that I couldn't do this because you had to be Central Asian, but this
Yeah.
one guy from Europe is doing it, and I started just trying different things on my own time, working in a factory 8 hours a day to practice making these noises. So for 8 hours a day, I would just make these random noises. Many people would come back and hear me and like laugh at me and like, what is this guy doing? Like, he's just making these weird noises. Spiritual teacher, Teal Swan. I'm not sure if you've heard of her, but I met her in person and I asked her about it, and she said, I asked her what does throat singing do, and she says that it shakes up people's energy patterns. So, as I interpret that, it means that what throat singing does is it shakes up people's energy patterns, and so it makes it more malleable and more easily, you can change your energy more effectively. I think that pain and these emotions, they have a purpose. And I think that the best way to approach them is to actually feel them. To be unconditional with them and to feel them and to not make them wrong, because resisting your pain is actually what creates suffering. Suffering would not exist if we just accepted our pain and treated it as something that was trying to teach us something about ourselves. Pain is nothing more than a message that something that is unwanted is happening, and it holds these truths within us, these personal truths that could only be accessed if we sat with our pain unconditionally.
Welcome back to the Gamma Seeker broadcast. I am delighted to bring you someone that you may not have heard of before, but has appeared on The Tonight Show with Jimmy Fallon, Japanese national television, Josh Drawshank's show, and the Nuke's Top 5. Terence M.G. Leaño is an amazing throat singer. He goes by the Throat Sing King online. If you haven't checked out his work, he is a breath of fresh air as you are doom scrolling through social media, harping on beautiful prayers, beautiful chants, and bringing a very old school style of singing, and he does it in his own unique way. Terence, thank you so much for taking time out of your life to be with us today.
Thank you for having me. I appreciate your time as well.
So there's going to be some new faces looking at you right now, and I would love to ask, what got you started doing throat singing?
So back in 2016, I was really into doing mantras and meditations. And it's funny because for many years I've been exposed to videos of, Tibetan monks throat singing. And I recently, in 2016, got into spirituality. And I started learning about mantras for the first time. I didn't really know about what they were. I just heard about them. And I started getting exposed to these mantras, and when I would join these meditations, these people would always comment on how nice my voice is. I always took pride on how well I could chant these mantras. And so I always saw myself as this guy who's really good at chanting. And then one day I was watching this television series called Marco Polo. And in the first scene of the first episode, I first was exposed to throat singing, and I'm like, wow, I need to learn how to do that. This is what a true expert chanting sounds like. And so I looked it up. I saw throat singing, how to learn it. And then I saw this article that said only people from Central Asia could throat sing because they have this special thing in their voice, in their throat, that genetically gives them the predisposition to be able to throat sing. So I had this belief for the longest time that I wouldn't be able to throat sing because I don't have that. I'm not from Central Asia. I'm from the Philippines. I'm Filipino. And so for the longest time, I believed that. And then 2 years later, in 2018, I saw a video of someone who's of, white complexion, Caucasian, who was throat singing. And I'm like, okay. So I don't know if that was true this whole time. For 2 years, I believed that I couldn't do this because you had to be Central Asian, but this one guy from Europe is doing it. Okay, I think that was false information. And then I saw this video by Alex Kular, and he said how to learn throat singing at home, and I bought his e-course. I didn't really know, I tried following along, and it wasn't working for me. So I guess took what I learned from that online course, and I started just trying different things on my own time, working in a factory 8 hours a day. Might as well, I'm folding these boxes in this factory for this car manufacturer, and might as well, I'm alone in the back anyway. Might as well just, while I'm folding these boxes, I'm just going to practice making these noises. So for 8 hours a day, I would just make these random noises. Many people would come back and hear me and like laugh at me and like, what is this guy doing? Like, he's just making these weird noises. And so that's how I learned, really, is practicing during times that were, just while you're doing mundane tasks, washing dishes, driving, and yeah, during work. And that's basically how I got into throat singing.
Okay, I want to make a note here that like learning how to throat sing is one of the toughest nuanced things I have tried, and sometimes I get it and I'm like, "Oh, I got it. Listen." And then it's very hard to replicate. So, how many hours do you think you had to practice before you could start doing it kind of on demand?
It Honestly, it was several hours every day. Several hours every
Okay.
day, like throughout my entire shift, 8 hours, and even when I got home. At times, in the beginning, especially, you have to really like doing it. Like it shouldn't feel like a chore to you. And to me, it felt good. Just making any kind of progress felt like I was getting closer to the sound I wanted. And even in the beginning, I had this delusion that I sounded good, even though now listening to it, I did not. But just believing that I sounded good was what kept me going, you know? And so I just throat sang for many hours every day. And it was, as you said, it took a long time to replicate the sound you made the previous day. It's like you made progress the previous day, and like, how did I do that again? And then you have to do it over and over again. It's a very intuitive, personal process. And sometimes I would go into my garage, throat sing, and say it'd be 10 p.m. and then throat sing, and then I feel like, okay, I did long enough, and then like it felt like maybe 2 hours went by, and I look at the clock at 6 a.m. It's like 8 hours. It's like time just flies when you're doing it and you're in the flow. Time doesn't exist. So
You know, I want to ask you the vibrational nuance, because I think what throat singing challenges me as a singer, right? Who has really kind of explored classical to metal. I'm not a good fry voice person. I think that is like really intense still. But when I go and try to do a double tone, and maybe we should start explaining like what that is, what throat singing is, why it is so complex. But it's almost like you have to sense where your skull is vibrating, um, not only from our throat, but from where we're resonating that capacity. So it's like your soft palate has to be way more controlled, your tongue position has to be way more controlled. Um, did you fall in love with the internal? The word I use is proprioception. It's our ability to kind of steer our mind's eye within and then kind of amplify our sensation.
yes, that was definitely the most challenging part. But it is very intuitive in nature, like feeling exactly, because everyone's mouth is shaped differently. There's a
Mm-hmm.
general idea of how it should, be shaped, how you're supposed to position your tongue, how your teeth are supposed to be positioned in relation to your tongue, and how your lips make a difference. You position your tongue and your lips in a specific way. Like, say, if you have your lips wider, it
Mm-hmm.
creates a higher tone. If it's the lower, I mean the more closed your lips are, the lower the tone goes. And then as you're doing that, you also have to focus on the tongue positioning, because the tongue positioning also has to change while you're doing that. And then these positionings are they're micro positions, like they're millimeters in movement. Like how we're speaking now, how we're talking. Speech is far more violent and more of a vigorous movement than the movements required in throat singing. It's very subtle and very, very, very subtle. So you have
I
to
would call it a nuanced, like a nuanced art, because if your position is just a little off, the resonance isn't going to happen, right?
yes, and even the teeth matter, like how your teeth are touching your tongue, the space between the teeth
Mm.
and the tongue, and
Is there supposed to be a little bit of space there
yes,
between the teeth?
yes,
Okay.
and also the nose, like the palate, like as you mentioned, you have to like with from the back, from the nasal part of your throat. It's kind of hard to
Yeah.
explain.
That's okay. I'll clip in one of your recorded sessions. That way people have like a taste of what throat singing is. And there's several different types. Am I right? Of like there's Truvian, then there's like others where they kind of
Yes,
resonate a little different.
so there's Tuvan throat singing, which
Mm.
is from the Republic of Tuva in Russia. And they have three main styles there, and they're right next to Mongolia, so they're very related. Like Tuva is a Turkic language, they speak a completely different language than Mongolian, but they're neighbors, and they generally are like they share a lot of the same things, including the types of throat singing. Like Mongolians might have a slightly different name for these styles, but from what I learned was from the Tuvan style of throat singing, which is there's three different styles. There's Kargara, which is the deep one, Oi! And then there's Hume, which is like the mid frequencies, and then the Sigit, which is the highest one, the one that has the overtone. And for me, my focus has been on Kargara, the lowest tone, because that's just my favorite. I just feel like it's just, yeah. And not to mention Hume and Sigit I feel they're more challenging. Like I'm still practicing them myself. I have not mastered them. I'm still working on that in my private time. I haven't been recording that lately.
Yeah, that's okay. I mean, I think music is it's a lifelong love, and we get better and better as we go. Are we ever at the end? Are we ever truly masters, or do we just learn more nuance? We kind of dive deeper.
So for Kargara, I was gonna mention that it actually takes a really long time to mature your vocal folds to be able to produce that sound. So like, oh, it's almost like working out a muscle. It's you have to practice every day, and you have to develop the muscles in your basically your false vocal cords to be able to create a pure tone. Otherwise, in the beginning when I was doing it, you had to really force the air out. It sounded really, violent compared to what it sounds like now. It's like enforced.
You sound like a living gong now. Like your whole body's emitting like a low frequency wave is how I bet it feels like around you. No, but it even comes through your recordings. To do that Kargara, I know that it takes it a lot of breath control. Do you train your breath at all?
No, actually. It's funny because I actually have a very, like, compared to normal people, I actually have a very low lung capacity. Like,
Hmm.
I get tired very easily if I run. I gas out faster than most people, and if I can't hold my breath as long as most people underwater. But what throat singing does is it creates this pressure, which uses less air than regular singing.
Hmm.
So when you do this kargara, you're actually, especially when your voice has matured, when your throat has matured, and the muscles are no longer you're no longer straining, because in the beginning you had to like really push the air out to make that sound. But now that if you're once your false vocal cords are strong enough to sustain that sound without having to force it too much, you actually use less air than you used to, and you use less air in throat singing than you do with normal singing. And
That's
so
amazing.
that's why it can last longer, like in one breath.
Yeah. I would love to have you train with me a little bit. I made a 10-minute course. It's so easy. And I made it for touring singers to help cleanse their nasal glands, create elasticity in the lungs, and then double their capacity. I'm in the business of doubling lung capacity.
Oh,
So
so that would
I
help a
couldn't
lot.
imagine.
Yeah, so
Yes.
right now I could probably chant with one breath for 20 seconds. So if you could double that to make it
Okay.
40 seconds, that would be amazing.
I can't. My max belt right now is at 35 seconds.
Wow, and with
And
regular
like
singing. That's
Loud.
crazy.
Yeah. Yeah. It's my bandmate, Rustin Gross, he's 6'4", giant man, and I just try to keep up with him in a 5 foot frame. So he can belt. We have these beautiful belting contests quite a bit. And I got to tell you, what drew me to your sound and to your music is that you do these chants and these prayers, which I think is what true music is. I think that we're a little oversaturated with like kind of egoic words wrapped into these beautiful sounds, and it maintains, music is incredibly hypnotic. It really, presents programs for us. It is a way that we learn how to deal with our emotional selves, is listening to music. And my band, we did a lot of stuff in other languages that were prayers. And we would kind of resurface these old prayers and sing them in a way with exotic instruments to take people on a little bit more of an internal journey. And I've noticed that you have really niched yourself into these prayers and chants. Can you tell us about the intention of that?
So for the chanting, it's funny because as I mentioned before, I heard Tibetan monks throat singing before. In my youth, even like when I was younger, I heard a glimpse of that through, I don't know, a movie or a documentary or something, where monks were chanting these prayers with throat singing. And for me, I consider myself more in the new age category when it comes to spirituality. And so we take, like New Age, there's a lot of different belief systems and a lot of different ways of thinking about things. It's esoteric. And a lot of these chants, like, say, are used different than what their religious origin comes, like, for instance, Hindu chants, a lot of these, like, from a religious standpoint, they're praying to gods. Whereas from a new age standpoint, they're praying to the ascended master. They believe that all gods and all these deities exist as ascended masters. From my esoteric standpoint, what I believe is in the law of attraction. So basically, thoughts shape reality, and there are these multiple dimensions layering on top of each other. So in the higher dimensions, when you think a thought, it manifests instantly in these higher dimensions. It's only in the third dimension where there's a delay between the thought and the thing from manifesting into reality. But in the higher dimensions, it manifests instantly. So when people think about something, it manifests immediately in the higher dimensions. And that includes these characters, such as, like, say, these deities or these angels. So Archangel Michael, Ganesha, Shiva, all these, some people may consider them gods, and I respect their perspective on that. But from a new age perspective, they're ascended masters because these collectives of people have thought up the character and their personality traits and how they are. And so it actually created this thought form in the ether, in the higher dimensions. And so with enough energy, where focus goes, wherever you put your focus and your thoughts, energy flows to it. You're giving your energy to whatever you're thinking of. So with enough people collectively thinking of something, it creates this accumulation of energy in the ether of this thought form character that they believe in, and then it develops its own consciousness. And so now they've created this new deity, this new consciousness, and it has the traits that they believe it has collectively. And so a lot of people think, Ganesha is the remover of obstacles. Well, so many people, billions upon billions of people have thought that. And so now there is this entity who does exist in the higher dimensions, known as an ascended master. All these characters, these deities are angels, saints, all these things that have been thought up by people. And some of them did have, they did exist in the physical. But just from the collective thinking about them and giving them personality and these traits, they do these things for you. So if I call on Ganesha, the that energy comes to me and actually helps me remove obstacles. They assist my frequency in whatever I ask for them. And what throat singing does is it amplifies the effects, because throat singing, I actually came across this information recently. My spiritual teacher, Teal Swan, I'm not sure if you've heard of her, but I met her in person and I asked her about it. And she said, I asked her, what does throat singing do? And she says that it shakes up people's energy patterns. So, as I interpret that, it means that what throat singing does is it shakes up people's energy patterns, and so it makes it more malleable and more easily. You can change your energy more effectively. It
Mm-hmm.
shaking up your patterns makes it so that you're more susceptible to change in your energy field. And so, with that, and also asking and calling upon these deities and having their energy influence yours is almost like a double whammy. I don't know how else to describe it, but it's
Mm-hmm.
almost like amplified significantly. So that's why I do this. And in the beginning, it's funny because, as I said, the Tibetan monks throat singing, I thought that throat singing could be applied to any mantra. But as I learned in my recent attempts at doing these, I've done these mantras, Hindu mantras, throat singing. I've gotten called out by so many people from the Hindu religion saying this is not the traditional way to sing it. Like I've angered a lot of people. I'll say that, but and I've created a lot of outrage. But those are what I've been told by many are extremists, and many of the Hindus that follow me say they love what I do, and it's only the few that are outraged. It comes with anything. You outrage anyone by doing anything.
That's true. Are you familiar with the word Icaros? So I was adopted into a Native American church probably about 15 years ago. And during ceremonies, like medicinal ceremonies, they sing these prayer songs called Icaros. And they're ceremonial songs that call in the spirit of, for them, the ascended masters are animals often. And we don't look at, in the Native American framework, they're not animals. They are people, deer people, bear people, the raven people, the alligator people. They are a collective consciousness and their own communities with their own matriarchies or patriarchies, their own governing principles. But when you get lost in the darkness, like they'll sing songs of the Black Panther and songs to the Black Raven to pull your spirit back. And it's a word that, to me, it's a beautiful Spanish word that it's embodying the heaven and the earth that the songs can create for us, that bridge. And cymatics is the study of how sound creates effect on physical matter, and it's a scientific niche that I am absolutely fascinated by, because I think that the future of health is much more about trusting the body to be an instrument, and we can use sounds and frequencies to buffer how our body is really made, this instrument that this is. And we can have like little cellular surgeries because we're empowering the body instead of ripping it open and pretending like we know more.
Hmm.
So the word Icaros really applies to how you are using the songs, how you're creating a connection between these two places in my world.
Hmm. Thank you for sharing that.
Yeah. Yeah. I'm actually under the impression that the Mongolian throat singing, because they were living in the Tibetan mountains, right? Like those super high, the biggest mountains in the whole world. And I can't remember now where I learned this, but I'm kind of curious if you had heard this too, that it came from that vocal intonation of hitting two tones, came from how they looked at heaven and earth colliding in these mountainsides. So, they would look down and they wouldn't touch what we call like land for sometimes years. They would just stay, 15,000 feet, 10,000 feet up in the mountains, looking down upon things. So they were connected to the sky and they were connected to the earth through these mountains. And then the songs that they sang were replicating how they felt in nature, that they were the bridge between both heaven and earth. Have you
Uh,
heard that?
that's a very well stated. You said that very well. Honestly, for me, I have not heard that specifically what you have said between the heaven and earth thing, but I could see that being the case because if you go to Tuva, they'll and you ask them how do you overtone sing, they'll bring you to the mountains and they'll say listen to that, and basically
Huh.
it's just is like where the mountains are, and basically when you stand in these feet, or amongst the mountains, you hear the sounds, like all throat singing is imitation of nature sounds, like it's all what they heard, and they were just trying to mimic these sounds they found in
Yeah.
nature, like Kargara. Whoa. They believe that it could possibly originate from, say, a crow or like a bear, but the my favorite interpretation of Kargara is that it was from ancient man listening to thunder. So they were
Mm.
hearing thunder and they were singing along to it almost. And in doing this, throat singing or overtone singing along with these sounds, they felt connected to nature by mimicking them. So it's
Yeah.
almost like imagine thunder, whoa, and like well, it's like there's lightning and thunder, and that's why I actually brand a lot of my videos with these thunder designs because I always have this saying where if thunder had a voice, it would be mine.
Nah, dude, I love that so much. I mean, so drummers, I love drummers. I think drummers are like, I don't play the drums. I think it takes an incredible sensory cortex to like a motor cortex to have four different appendages playing at the same time and then also be counting to 16 rapid fire. But I am purified. I feel like when I go and see a good show with a great drummer, that the bass and the cymbals purify my vibration. Like no matter what's going on in my life, a good drummer can, it kind of like washes me clean like the ocean. Like I could go to the ocean, I can stand in front of a drummer for a little while they play. And my vision always with like a good metal drummer is that they are the god of thunder and lightning on that stage, and they are the ones responsible for like the biggest energetic spouts of fire, and it's like lightning and thunder, and that like when somebody kicks that bass drum, the whole audience starts to move. They are the heartbeat of those frequencies. So for you to embody that in yourself, it's like that's awesome. That's you really feeling the power of the human instrument truly. um Curious, if someone's watching this and they're like, holy shit, I really want to try doing this, what would be your first recommendation for them to start?
So you can look up these videos online. They're everywhere on how to throat sing. But I am planning on actually creating very soon an online course that would get them started, and I will be posting that for not that expensive actually, just something that anyone interested in taking a step into throat singing would want to do. And yeah, the thing about throat singing is no matter what, whoever teaches you or whatever you learn, there's no guarantee you're gonna learn it. It's all about how dedicated you are. It's all about dedication because, as I said, it takes hours upon hours of nonstop practice. It's hours and um, hours upon hours of having to deal with people making fun of you in the beginning. That's one of the main things too. Is like for me when I
Yeah.
started throat singing, I just had to deal with a lot of people making fun of me first of all, and also my parents telling me to stop. Uh, and
Oh. Like every musician who picks up an instrument, it's like, please quit it. You sound like a dying cat.
yes,
So
so
would your advice be
it takes a
to
lot of
be
perseverance.
devoted?
It takes a lot of
Yeah.
perseverance. If you want to learn, you have to really want to learn because everything's going to be going against you in the beginning unless you have a really good support system that understands and values throat singing. It's going to be a challenge to have to learn it with so much opposition. I guess that's my experience anyway.
So this is Matilda. And this is my rudimentary conversation of how I would describe throat singing is we're learning to hit two tones. So your vocal cords are down here, and they're going to be emanating a tone like we are every time we talk. But then we're going to use the tongue, and now please correct me if I'm wrong, Terrence, to create basically two different caverns. So it's the teeth and the tongue, and then the soft palate, which is right behind the hard palate here. And then depending on how you angle your tongue and your teeth and you control your breath, we're going to create a cavern that gets basically emitted through the skull, is how I would try to describe it. So it's like we're resonating one tone off of the inside of the skull through this direction, while you're also simultaneously hitting another tone here. So when you're talking about the nuance of control, it's the tongue, it's the teeth, it's the soft palate, it's the pressure of the air, the lips. Yep.
And also the one of the main things with overtone singing. So that's what you would consider overtone singing, right? Just doing that. And there's different kinds. So what would they consider that, what you just described, as Western overtone singing? So it's the overtone singing that they do in the West. So Europe and, in the other countries, not in Central Asia. So in Central Asia, what they do differently is called sigit and hume. So what difference that makes is they create this pressure in their throat, in their actual vocal folds, in their actual vocal cords, right? Like the Kargra does the false vocal cords. Oh, the actual vocal folds have to be pressurized in this sense, constricted. And what that does is it... So basically, when we're talking, as we're talking now, our voice is actually comprised of many, many tones, all blended together seamlessly, so it sounds like one tone. Our voice sounds like one singular tone, but it's actually comprised of many different tones, all in a family of harmonics together. And what this pressure of hume does is it constricts it so that only certain tones are coming out. And so with that, along with the tongue position and all these other things, is what emphasizes the overtones to be louder than the undertone, which is our regular voice. So it's actually the isolation of these tones that creates the more emphasized overtone.
I want to understand it a little bit better. They're creating the intonation farther down. They're not using just their tongue.
No, they're using... So that's Western overtone singing without the pressure. That's what they consider. And they're very... I didn't know this for many years, to be honest. Yeah. When I first started doing it, I was only doing the tongue positioning. And I'm good at overtone singing. That's what I did on the Tonight Show with Jimmy Fallon. I guess the people I learned from didn't really stress how important it is to master hume in order for it to count as sigit. Sigit is what they call their style of overtone singing. And if you call your overtone singing, your Western overtone singing sigit, they get very defensive about it. You're not doing sigit, you're doing Western overtone singing, get that right. They really call you out on it. So it takes, so that's what I'm practicing now, is actually, I'm trying to mature my regular vocal folds to be able to do hume so that I can actually genuinely do sigit. Because what I've been doing for many years and thinking it was sigit was actually just Western overtone singing this whole time.
Wow.
So yeah, it was...
So what does that look like for you? Because we're talking about controlling muscles you literally can't see. So how is it that you create that nuance and perception? I'm sorry if that's a tough question, but curious.
The sigit voice has its own sound. So when you actually learn sigit, it's just adding pressure to your your regular vocal folds, your regular vocal cords. And what it does is it actually creates an overtone in itself. But it's much more subtle than overtone singing, where you're using your tongue and your lips and stuff. But you just have to look it up, I guess. It sounds almost like a goat. The tone of it. You have to warm up, so I can't really do it right now. So yeah. It's it sounds like, I don't know if I can say it, but it's almost like say a whisper, right? You're whispering.
Yeah. And
you force the whisper to make a sound. It's almost like that. It's like, and then when it's warm enough, sounds a lot better.
It's almost like it's just trying to describe a light angel on top of a deep tone.
Yeah.
And I can kind of plug in one of these Mongolian singers that I like that does it, because I can totally hear in my head what you're saying, but I've never had somebody kind of outline the differences. So you're taking my knowledge to the next level. I'm really grateful for that.
So yeah, so Hume actually has four different tones happening at once.
Whoa.
Yeah, like people. There's this meter that people have used where it shows how many tones are playing at once, and it shows four.
Whoa.
But it's honestly, it's funny because if you do Kargra or Sigit or overtone singing at a party, it's very impressive. But when you do Hume, people are like, "What's that?" It's like it doesn't sound as good as the other ones. I'll tell you that. Like it sounds good to those who are accustomed to it and it's an acquired taste. But
Yeah.
if you don't know what it is, it could sound very strange.
Well, American and Canadian ears were more used to like the major scale, but the ear is capable of almost 1,400 different tones. So when we get into microtonal music and, listen to Bulgarian music or like Eastern classical Indian music, it's almost like that palette range that we love tones in starts to expand. And so I imagine that like Hume is probably more enjoyed by people who are more familiar with the microtonal scale and like those colors of notes. What does preparation of a warm up look like for you as a throat singer?
So for me, it's really good to have tea, like something warm to possibly. I think I haven't really tried it, but I heard good things about ginger tea. I usually take whatever tea is available, so it doesn't matter as long as I get warm water down there and it warms things up. It will help a lot in having to because anything in your throat at all that like any mucus, any kind of any small thing could really really disrupt the sound. And so you have to clear your throat. And that's actually something that I actually had to do was you kind of just dive into it sometimes. If you don't have tea, you know, and at times I didn't even have water, I would just go into it. Whoa. And then you have to practice for like like for me, I think 10 to 30 minutes of just straight throat singing nonstop will warm it up for you, and it will actually in the process clear a lot of these blockages up. Just get some tissue and just like spit it out. But yeah, so that's actually part of the process is the clearing. So before I begin recording, I have to clear the blockages if I don't have tea or water nearby. And yeah, and sometimes I join drum circles and there isn't any water, so that's why I'm mentioning that because I do a lot of the time have to warm up without water.
Okay. I want to remind you to bring water when you go to those drum circles then.
Yes, so I just do these, these throat singing chants. Um,
And
and
with the chants, are you sliding through a scale? Because like a classical singer, we're gonna like rip through scales, kind of start alto, and then kind of reach into soprano, reach more into
so
bass, and there's kind of this elastic warm up. Do you do the same?
so for throat singing, it's funny because you don't actually change your voice at all. All of it is,
Okay.
so when I'm doing cargo, ooh. So the low tones it's all about the shape of your mouth. So the low tones, ooh, you can see my lips are closed. Ooh. But if I want to do a high tone, yeah, it's the same tone, it's just my mouth is more open.
Wow.
So it's just
Okay.
me
So you're not.
So it's just spreading my
Yeah.
like so same this is the exact same tone. I'm just gonna move my mouth. Ooh, yeah, it's all the mouth. I don't know if you can
Huh.
notice that.
Yeah.
But it's all
Huh.
mouth movement. It's all just one tone the whole time with your throat. But it's your mouth changing the actual tonation.
Wow. So there's not like notes that you rip through, but you have a pretty significant range.
Like for me, I don't sense myself changing notes at all like I would on a scale. I'm just moving my mouth.
Okay, this is so fun. Okay, I've interviewed world-renowned opera singer Hilary Ginther, and her warm-up style and her body awareness is really interesting. And then I interviewed Jordan Davidson, which is a really big vocal coach for pop singers. And both of them, I asked about like how do you control like your awareness of the vibration, and both of them had very different answers. So I am curious as a throat singer, um, when you're switching, are you kind of holding, and this might be a weird question, but as a throat singer, are you holding the vibration in seemingly one spot of your body? Like when you're in the lower tone one,
Kagura.
are you, Kargra, thank you. It's a new word for me. Are you hanging out in a kind of one area and then shifting the mouth position? Or as you change from Kargra to like overtones, does it kind of feel like the nucleus of the vibration is shifting to different parts of your body?
Um, I think so, yes. Like, so for me, when I'm doing the Kagura, it feels at the bottom of the base of your throat. And when I'm doing Hume, it's in the center right here. And then when I'm doing the overtones, it's more just purely at the top, like in that palate area. For instance, like I'm not sure what you mean really by that, to be honest. But
Well, if you're hitting two notes, like do you feel like dual vibrations in a way?
um, I'm not exactly sure. It's just, I guess I'm one of those people. I'm not that attuned to my own body, I guess. So
Okay.
I guess for me, I barely feel anything, honestly. I'm just focusing on the notes. I'm not attuned to how my body feels. So maybe right now I can tune into it. I'll let you know. So this is
Okay.
Kargara. When you do an overtone with Kargara, it's called Shalandik, and that's when you use your tongue positions with Kargara. So not sure if you heard that.
I did. I mean, I have in-ears with 5 drivers, so I could hear a lot of it, which is
You
great.
know, if we were on Zoom, you would have not been able to hear any of that. Zoom cuts it out like background noise.
Yeah. Could you feel I know it's like a funny question to kind of focus on the nucleus of sound, but did you get anything from that?
Honestly, I just felt it exactly um where it was coming from. So I felt it down here, and I also felt
Mhm.
it go up here, like up to my nose. That's just what I felt.
Very cool. Sorry for these questions. I have
No, it's very. I know I'm gonna
uh,
tune into that more. Maybe it'll help me with the tuning to my how the energy feels in my body.
right? Jordan, his takeaway, and it kind of has transformed my voice in an interesting way. He said the nucleus of the sound for pop singing, right? Very different than opera, because opera has a full passaggio. You're going all the way up and down the body, really engaging the pelvic floor on bigger notes. But with pop singing, he was like, his job is to train his students to keep the nucleus of sound as stable as possible. And I've never heard any vocal coach say that. So it brought me deeper into my own body. And I noticed immediately how much I was moving it around like you do in opera. And just by creating stability, it's made my voice like less explosive. And that's like my problem is my breath is so powerful that sometimes I can kind of lose myself in a song and then it sounds a little bit jumpy.
Hmm.
Does
Interesting.
that make sense?
Now that you're saying it, I think I might actually know what you mean. Like, so when I say the Kagura, right? Like, I actually feel that going up. Like, I don't know. Like now that you're mentioning it, I actually kind
Yeah.
of feel it going up in my throat, like as in like where the pressure is. It's like changing the spots in my throat. Like I feel like I have to actually squeeze, like especially in the beginning when I was doing throat singing for when I was a beginner, I couldn't do this. I had to like almost like put pressure in a different area, or like I had to put more pressure than I did with the low tones. I don't know. It's like moving up, like you were mentioning, like. So I actually I might be getting that wrong with the mouth position. I think it's the mouth position and a different part of the throat as well.
You know, it's so funny. Learning how to sing is like an orally passed down tradition. You can't really like learn it from a book. And like digital courses, I think are fun to rip you through drills, but you still have to feel and perceive. And then if when you record, Yeah, I feel like recording is one of the most humbling things as a singer because you watch how your frequencies are so unstable and then it kind of hones you. And I love live performances, but your audience members don't listen as good as a recording mic does. And then it doesn't fabricate exactly what your nuance was. Can you tell me a little bit about? I know you're recording a lot right now. What does your recording process look like? How do you prep? Are you gentle with yourself? Are you hard on yourself? Just walk me a little bit through that.
So I'm actually very hard on myself.
Mm.
I'm a bit of a perfectionist. Especially in the beginning when not the beginning, but like I started, I started in 2021 this process of making TikTok videos. I started in 2021, and it took me about 2 years to gain a following. Took me 2 years to get 100,000 followers, and then I got on Jimmy Fallon, and then I felt like it was just nothing could compare. Like it was just such a high that I could not um, replicate, and I just felt like online posting was just so underwhelming. And so I stopped recording for a year. I started again 3 months ago, so I took like a year off or so, like maybe a little, almost like 2 years off of throat singing and recording. And then I started up again, and now I'm in this mode of only doing chants. I used to do random things before. Now I'm doing only chants, and I have this theme going. And so now in my recordings, I record over like sometimes it takes me like 5 hours to finish one like 8 second video. Um, because I'm that much of a perfectionist where I'm trying to find the best way to chant something that sounds the best, and also in a way where the tone is coming out clean. Like sometimes it doesn't come out the way I want it to come out. And so it takes me a long time. Sometimes, like the longest I ever spent on one chant was 12 hours of recording, and then nope, not that one, delete. Recording, nope, not that. It's just a bunch of repeating recordings, and the recording is actually a way for me to practice the chant, because I have to come up with a different chant every day almost. So I have to memorize it. I have to find different ways to sing it, and so that's a big part of it is learning the chant, first of all, finding one, researching on which chant is best. And even recently I started looking up different holidays, like in Hinduism and stuff, when, like it was Ganesha's birthday, like last week, 6 days ago. I can't remember, it was called Chaturthi, Ganesha Chaturthi. I don't know if I'm saying that correctly. So, but yeah, finding the chant, there's like thousands upon thousands. Like I looked up how many chants there are in Hinduism, and there's at least 20,000 in just one of the Vedas. Like
Hmm.
so.
What a beautiful thing that you're honing in on and focusing, like as you guide your thoughts towards that direction. You're
Yes.
getting practice that I don't know anybody else is truly getting, and you're giving them new life in a lot of
Yeah,
ways. It's
so
very
I'm
cool.
also learning different chants from different cultures. Like that's like one of my main goals was to unite different cultures in with my throat singing, in a sense, because there's, I don't know if you've ever heard of Hai Lung.
Yeah, I saw them live here. It was one of the most powerful shows I've ever gone to in my whole life. I was fifth row center, and I felt like they had baptized all of us by the time we were done. And I had eaten like a nice amount of mushrooms, but like everybody's face was all gobbledygook after, because I felt like they literally purified the yes. So anyway, say what
So
you're gonna
so
say.
yeah,
Big fan.
they inspired me a lot with how I do my thing, because they use throat singing in their
Hmm.
in their in their music. And the thing is, throat singing was never a part of Scandinavian culture. Like the throat singing they do was taken from the Central Asian people. But the thing is, it works. It works. They're Viking, or not even Viking. It's their Norse pagan chants. Different languages from Proto-Germanic, Proto-Norse, and Old Norse, and a bunch of different other languages that they use and they mix together in their music. It just inspired me to throat sing in whatever language I could think of on my own.
Yeah.
And I even use throat singing for chants that I created in my own native tongue, which is Tagalog, if you know Filipino.
Wow.
And
Joy is Filipino, so she's gonna enjoy this like on another level, I bet.
so yeah, so that's one of the main things I'm doing now is actually I'm also looking up and sometimes even using translators to write my own chants, in either Sanskrit, Pro-Germanic or any of the Norse languages, and even African languages like Zulu, ancient Egyptian languages, languages like in China and in Japan, and I'm just trying to find any kind of chant or invocation or incantation that I could find and throat sing it. That's just what I've been doing. As long as I like the intention. The intention is the most
Yeah.
important part for me because the energy I put out comes back to me multiplied. So I only put out things that I actually want in my life. So if I want love or if I want money or if I want good health, then I will give it to people. And in knowing that whatever you put out, it's the law of, exchange, energy. Whatever you put out comes back to you multiplied tenfold. So that's my intention is I'm helping other people out. Well, I know that it's also helping me. So I would never put out anything that doesn't help me or help other people.
That's so beautiful. Um, if you're listening and you don't know who Hailung is, they are classified as a neo-pagan folk metal band. Their name actually means healing, and they have the song named Tenet. Was that like one of your inspiring songs by them?
That was a really good
Tenet,
one. Yes.
yeah. Tenet is a para. There's a word for it, a palindrome of how the word kind of folds and compresses within itself, but it came from like a 15th century prayer, and it's for a song. It's quite baptismal. I would urge you to look at some of Lon Milo Duquette's work. He's been studying Enochian from its original source. I don't know if it would be clean enough for you or pure enough for you because it's not like an
From
ancient.
from Enoch.
Yeah.
Okay, so
So,
yeah, no, I'm open to anything. I do modern chants. I do chants created by myself even, like it doesn't matter what it
yeah.
is as long as I like the meaning. And what energy it puts out, then I will do it.
Beautiful. Me and my bandmate reached out to Lon because we found one of his prayers and we were like, we had just come off of like the Hai Long show. And I was like, man, what kind of 15th century prayer could we find? And we reached out to him as an author and got his permission to redo his Enochian invocation. I'm going to send it to you after. It's like a 12-minute song. And it's strong. It's a good baptized by sound
So
song.
I might take a portion of it and throat sing it.
Cool.
Yeah.
Yeah, we got Lon's permission. He was like, he is somebody that has practiced ceremonial magic from across different cultures. And I think this is the beauty of the information age. We get a chance to call every country in the world and said, hey, how do you guys open your temples? And my mom was a world religions major. My dad was a born again Christian. He was a preacher when I was born. And my joke is that they gave birth to a witch, so they had to leave the church. But they came to their own when I was 9 or 18 months. They left the church on their own volition from hellfire. And so my brother and I, we grew up with all the religions. And so I feel connected to Buddhism, to Jainism, to the Native American Red Road, to the Hindu belief of the demigods, which is, crosses over with, the pagan and the Greek. There's beauty in all of it. But where are the songs? Where are like in my world, what I say to myself is, where the hell are the ancient like white people songs?
Yes.
Like the path of the blue road, because I feel very Celtic. I'm Scotch Irish, and I remember like one of my last ceremonies, I was like, the red road is so beautiful. Like I love the Native American Icaros. I love the sequence and the ritual that almost every temple uses fire, earth, air, water. That's what we open an altered space with. and it has
Mm.
nothing to do with a church or a temple or a synagogue or whatever. Wherever people go, nature is the most ancient temple. I think gardening is the most ancient religion. Like I play a murderer out there and a creator out there, so my plants are always showing me like how, I'm the giant in my tiny little fern gully. You die, you live, bring your friends. So but really, and so music is this buffer of how we interact with the unseen. And I look around at my world and it's like, well, what did my ancestors sing? Where, like, what were they singing to the wind? And I am like constantly searching for those prayers, because I know that in my lineage, in the 800 years ago, when they were under the sky and over the earth, there was probably a hum tune. And when I play the harp, like, I got a harp for my birthday a couple years ago, and it was my first time ever touching a harp. I'd been infatuated. And I play piano, I play a lot of stringed instruments, guitar. There's a lot of overlap. When you learn one, Terrence, I got to tell you, the next one's 10 times easier because it's all pattern. It really is. If you can type, you can play a piano. And when I played the harp, it was like it was an old friend. It did not feel like a brand new instrument. And my dad's like, wow, this is very interesting. And I'm like, well, it's maybe my Irish soul,
It's definitely an
But
ancestor, and in your ancestry, maybe.
yeah. And it's a very difficult. Harp is the most difficult instrument I've ever tried to sing and play with. Because that kind of divides your mind in two, to play and simultaneously, have breath control and control the note and think about the word. But I think that there's so much more that we can truly unlock when we start thinking about the altered space that we can generate with acknowledging the fire, earth, air, water, and we can sing a song that our ancestors sang. And I want to know if you have experienced a transcendental or psychedelic experience from singing alone.
Yes. Just like just from singing by itself.
Mm-hmm.
So just from singing, just that's a hard one to remember. I'm pretty sure I have. I just can't remember the exact details. Um, all I know is a lot of the time when I'm singing and throat singing, I see a lot of energetic patterns around me, and it kind of gives me. It's almost reminiscent. It's hard for me to explain. It's almost it reminds me of mushrooms or LSD, because when I'm on those psychedelics, I can see other entities in different dimensions. And at times when I'm throat singing for prolonged periods of time, I can actually see them, like glimpses of them anyway. Like, say, if I'm singing to specific entities or something, I can see a bunch of them in the background behind the camera. Like, I can see them there. Like Ganesha, I could see his energy there when I'm singing sometimes. Like, I can actually see like his consciousness stream hovering above my camera. And so those are like the only times I can, throughout the day though, like I'm seeing a lot of things like orbs or like flashes, and those to me are angels or light beings. So I see them often, but when I'm throat singing, it's super amplified. Super amplified when I'm throat singing. It feels psychedelic in that sense because, yeah, I can only really see them in high definition when I'm on mushrooms or I'm on LSD.
What if you're on one of those altered space medicines and you're singing? Have you had any experiences with that you care to share?
Yes. So when I was throat singing, I was looking myself in the mirror, and I changed into a past life version of me that was a throat singer. And I've been told that by psychics before, that I was a shaman in a past life, and in multiple past lives. But I did see that happen where I was throat singing and I transformed into someone completely different in the mirror. And that happens a lot where I channel different beings when I throat sing. It's just like when I'm on these medicines, I just become something else.
Okay, so we're gonna pause there, and I want to ask you a I want to ask you a question that I've never asked before. So there is channeling where we kind of basically give up the body and
Yes,
something else comes
that's
through.
that's conscious possession. Yes, channeling.
Yeah, and then there's voluntary where you kind of are still in the mind, but you can kind of like witness this cohabitation. Um, where do you feel like you're falling
In
when you're
between.
in
So
locked in?
sometimes it
Okay.
depends. So sometimes I do channel in a sense where, like mostly when I'm on psychedelics. I can potentially do it when I'm not. But to me, I think to be a pure channel, you have to have an extremely high frequency. And to have
Hmm.
a lot of people think they can channel well, but a lot of the time a lot of it is still their ego coming through and distorting the channel. Like their own thoughts and beliefs are actually kind of interfering with the actual channel. That's just what I believe. And especially when you're eating a lot of low vibration foods and stuff like that, that keeps you low. A lot of sugar, like sugar is basically like a crystal that holds a low frequency that's anchoring you down to lower frequencies. And so stuff like that is really important. But when I'm on psychedelics, a lot of it is bypassed because of how high the frequency is. A lot of your beliefs and a lot of your constructs are minimized and like they just go away. You're like in a higher perspective now from taking these mushrooms and psychedelics. And so when I like one time I did channel entities and beings, I channeled Jesus Christ, and a lot of people might take that very offensively because you can't channel Jesus. But yeah, I did channel Jesus at one point. I channeled Zeus. I channeled Kublai Khan. I channeled it's like Genghis Khan's grandson. But I also a bunch of other beings as well.
Thank you for sharing that. I often say I hope I can one day be like the gateway drug to chanting because I'm really like I'm into the breath and I'm into body tension because as an athlete and musician, recovery tools are very essential. But really when we get past like pain and we get past recovery, how do we amplify our electromagnetic frequency? And I think sound like if I had a daughter, I would teach her to sing because it gets you in tune with not only your breath and your body, but it gives you this power, this confidence that you learn how to emanate through the field around you. And like, I think learning how to sing loudly, sing mighty is one of those forces that you can exercise. It's
Yes.
like building muscles outside of the body.
Yes. So
Um,
that is very true. Like chant. Even without throat singing, like singing in general, just getting that air in, and then the projection of the voice, it creates such a high frequency. Like it does
mhm.
change your energy, regardless if it's throat singing or not. It's just chanting does raise the vibration, and yeah, that's a good thing to teach your daughter.
Yeah. And I don't have kids, but I'm always telling moms like, "Man, if you can teach them how to sing, they'll be confident, they'll be willful. They won't be meek or shy, but like then you wrestle with your own shyness. And I think like the best singers are truly servants. They're truly opening a flow. And I think the most difficult part about live shows is getting your mind out of the way because if you miss a note, you miss a note, but probably most people in the audience didn't hear it and now you have to be present for the next note. And to me, like my best shows were always when I wasn't thinking about how I sounded and I was thinking about emanating the frequency that was coming through. More so, like I'm devoted to this energetic possibility. And here's the container that people are. And how can I keep this container flowing in a vortex, you know? And most singers, I think, get trapped in this, like, look at me, look at me. And it creates kind of a division in your mind. So you're not showing up for people, you're not taking them on the internal journey. And that's where I really think your sound, your songs that you're choosing, it's not about you. You're there to emanate a new field and create, pull that into them and into their little pocket of reality so that they also can feel the depth, that hypnotic space.
Yeah, what you said about that actually reminds me of when I was on the Tonight Show, where when I was when I was in rehearsal, I was always in my head. I just felt so nervous, like, oh my God, I didn't get that much practice. I only got like 2 hours of sleep in the past 2 days. I don't know how I'm gonna, pull through this. And then when I was there, it just felt like this energy just wanted to come through me, and I just got this message from like, I don't know, it felt like divine intervention where I was just like, everything's gonna be all right. I know, I've never been in front of this many people before, and in front of, like on television. I've never been on television like this before, but it's okay. What's gonna happen is meant to happen. Is divinely orchestrated, and what's the sounds you're about to emit were meant to come through you and into the audience. It was basically like a message that it was going to help raise the frequency of the collective that we're watching. And it's funny because when I went there to New York, and then on my flight home, like on in the airport, about to fly home, there was an earthquake, and my uncle, my great uncle said, I've been living here for like 20 years and I've never felt an earthquake like that before. And I just felt like there was a shift in the energy in that field because of the overtones. I don't know. That's just the intuitive message that I got.
Bro, I just got flooded with goosebumps when you said that. Huh. Yeah. Nah, I think there's some residual truth in what you're saying, dude. Like all over my legs. I always think of goosebumps as like our electrostatic truth serum. It's like when they raise something important is happening, and like everything, every cell, the electricity within you is saying, hey, pay attention right now. I'm so grateful that you're showing back up on social media, because it's quite a presence. You're quite a blockade of different frequency amongst everyone around you.
It has been a challenge, to be honest, in regards to mental health wise, where you're doing well one moment and you're doing very well and you feel like it's going to keep going up, and then it goes down, and then you just feel like this feeling that you're going to lose the progress you've made and the growth you've made. It feels like you're going to eventually disappear again, and then I don't know, it's just this whole process of feeling like I can't maintain this level. I'm gonna disappear. I'm going to be in, I'm gonna fall, basically. Like I feel like I was rising for the longest time, and now I feel like there's a potential for me to fall if I maintain this downward spiral of negative thoughts that are arising.
Mm.
That's why I think, shadow work and working with the subconscious is very important. Like to me, that's actually the main thing when it comes to healing, is working with the subconscious aspects of yourself that are, like your fears and your worries and all these different aspects of yourself that are, having these doubts and having these things, and caretaking them, and really, helping them carry them forward.
Yeah, I would like to kind of harp on that a little bit, because in my fold, there's no one that has like a following like I do in my local community. And I'm sure you feel very similar. And there's no rule book. There's, not like a collective group of influencers that are like, hey, how are you maintaining the mental health of like hate comments or not hate comments, or the growth or the not growth? How much oxytocin are you getting from it, or serotonin are you getting from it, and are you protecting your dopamine levels because like you're seeing it as something for your business, or is this something that's bolstering the self-esteem? So I think that you're hitting upon a lot of real points, and there's a lot of people out there that want to be influencers, um, because they think it increases our status. But on the inner side of it, I feel like there's a lot of people that are leveraging it to make money, not leveraging it to make money. People that are showing up and maybe receiving too much self esteem bolstering from strangers. And there's no rule book. There's no rule book, but every day, you and I wake up and it's like, what are we going to feed the beast today? And it's a huge part of our mentality of like, oh, should I film this? Should I not film this? And I have created, I think, a little bit of more health around like my family time is my family time. And I try to keep, the social media time only in a work frame. And I'm always reminding myself that like I don't have to look a certain way in every video or present myself in a certain way because I'm a person, I'm a human, I'm not a brand. I'm going to oscillate, I'm going to show up differently. And I think that gentleness with yourself, for me, it always comes back down to service. Like if I don't look my best in the video, but my energy was giving, if it was from my heart, I feel often like it's the bravery of just like post it anyway, because it's more about the energy that we're sharing with others. And I think that, you know, whether we have a million or whether we have, I mean, you have such a big channel. It's amazing to think that you took a year off. I commend you for that.
Yes, I gained 100,000 followers on Instagram in about a month and a half.
Wow.
Like I only had 900 when I started, and it was stuck on there for the longest. I didn't know if I was gonna gain a following on Instagram. I just kept going, nonstop,
Yeah.
posting every day because I was posting on TikTok. I already had a following on TikTok, but my Instagram was always at like 900. You know, I was getting 200 views every video, and I'm just like, okay, well, Instagram's probably never gonna grow. And then out of nowhere, it just exploded in a matter of 5 weeks, and I got 100,000 followers. And
Wow.
now I have 244.
220. Wow, dude. Yeah, and you've grown since I found you just a little bit ago. I found you when you had like 214, and I was looking at your thing today. I'm like, oh, look at him, just on the climb.
Yes, I was gaining about 5,000 followers every day. Now, I'm, like that's what I'm trying to say is I was getting 5,000 followers every day, and now I'm only getting 1,300 followers. And right now, it feels like a little compared to what I used to get. But thinking back, I'm like, that's a
Wow.
lot still.
I would like there was only a pocket of time where I was averaging 1,000 a day, and I was so like delighted by that. And now I'm at like 500, and I feel like that, like, oh no, am I not like producing as good stuff? Or you have these like tiny conversations with yourself, but really we ebb and flow as people. And I think like if we judged ourselves more on a year long frame, because if you're doing what you love, it's all just part of progress. And if
Yes.
it would disappear tomorrow, we'd still wake up and be doing what we're
You
doing.
know, I actually feel like called that like it even says I don't know if you believe in astrology, but it
Mm.
even says on my in my birth chart that I'm meant to be in the public eye. Like I have one of the most influential like charts. Um and I just feel called to something else. You know, like I feel like this is just the beginning stage of getting my name out there, but I feel called to do something similar to you doing, maybe make a band or something, or like some kind of just performing more on stage, I feel, and being more in a live performance kind of mode. So I don't know. I guess I'm still figuring things out. I'm just going, with the flow. I'm producing content every day, but I know eventually it'll evolve to something else.
God,
And
Terrence, if you want to be a band, just please promise me it won't be the stock American rock and roll band, like drummer, bassist, guitar
oh,
player. Please get some exotic shit in there.
yeah, it's definitely gonna be like that. And so going back on what we were talking about the emotional and mental health, and it's funny because you said when it's coming from the heart, that really like clicked something in my brain because I really do feel like a lot of this, like right now I'm feeling drained. Like I feel like I'm running out of energy, and
Honestly, I have been too, though. My dreams for the last month have been very distorted. And the way that I've been trying to describe it to people is it's like the ether feels more chaotic than normal. And like I have a lot of tools. I know how to call in my angels. I know how to create like divinity and order around me, but it feels like it's taking twice or three times as much energy. So I don't mind riffing on that at all because I think it's relatable. And there is this state of flux. And if you look at the mandala effect, I kind of wonder if they've like reached something with CERN or if they've been playing with the timelines because everybody kind of feels a little disoriented.
yes, they definitely are playing with our subconscious as a collective. Like they're doing something. With the ley lines of the earth, the intersections. They're having these. They're probably doing something with our consciousness without us knowing. At all times. And right now, it does feel everything is uncertain. Everything feels chaotic, and I agree with you. But I guess for me, one of my main practices that I've been trying to implement, and I think is most important, like we talk about all this sound healing and everything, and it does have its place. I do believe that. But for me, inner work extremely important because, in my view, everything on the external is a reflection of the internal. So everything that's happening around us is actually a symptom of the human condition. Everything that is, all the chaos, all of this is actually a mirroring of humanity's chaos within themselves. So the more inner work we do, the more shadow work we do, the more integration we do within ourselves, the more we will start to see improvements on the external reality. It's from working from the inside out rather than the outside in. Like the outside does help with that if you use it intentionally for that purpose. But when it comes to, for me, and this is a controversial opinion, so watch out for that. But say Reiki and all this energy work, it's all surface level in a sense that though you can do energy healing on someone and it does work, if they don't change their thinking and the way they believe things and their energy patterns, it's gonna go back to how it was. Like, even when it comes to like for me, if I were to use sound healing, I would use it in a way to make it easier to do the inner work. I think inner work should be the main focus. This is what I'm saying, and this is coming from my, I think I mentioned her, Teal Swan, my spiritual teacher. She's really inspired me to think in this way, where I focus mostly on inner work and using that to help improve the reflection I'm getting on the external reality, and I'm using these chants to assist me in that process. And removing obstacles for these purposes, and I do plant these seeds of beliefs that I have about inner work in my videos as well. I'm not sure what your perspective is on that.
That's beautiful, and I can't agree more. The outside-in approach, I think, has its limitations in so many ways, and people that go in, they seek pain relief, or they seek emotional support, or they seek a new relationship with their breath or their body. When we're seeking external, it's not until we fully embody it that we have that relief. And all my programs are designed to bring sovereignty back to the person, because even in like fascia is an industry that I'm pretty linked in, I still see a lot of dependence that therapists create with their clients.
Yes.
Like, oh, if you need relief there, come back to me.
Yes.
And it's like, okay, it's just pharmacy. It's just the same crappy model applied again.
So like one of the main things happening now that I see that is kind of what it's like one of the most discouraging factors is that people use my chants as pain relief. The thing about that is, I think that pain and these emotions, they have a purpose. And I think that the best way to approach them is to actually feel them, to be unconditional with them and to feel them and to not make them wrong, because resisting your pain is actually what creates suffering. Suffering would not exist if we just accepted our pain and treated it as something that was trying to teach us something about ourselves. Pain is nothing more than a message that something that is unwanted is happening, and it holds these truths within us, these personal truths that could only be accessed if we sat with our pain unconditionally. And that's actually a big part of why I feel drained, is because for me, I'm still learning how to feel. And the fact that at times I still suppress my emotions, I still, it's really hard to learn to feel into your pain because we're naturally wired to avoid pain. So for me, it's been the process of actually sitting with my pain and feeling these negative emotions unconditionally without wanting them to change. That has been the greatest challenge. And in doing so, what you do is you're stopping the suppression, because, when you suppress your emotions, you're actually taking energy to do that. Like, you might not notice it, but when you're suppressing these negative emotions, it actually takes up a lot of your energy. And also, it closes the heart when you do that. When you actually feel into your emotions, you're giving yourself unconditional presence. And in doing that, you are giving yourself one of the most healing things you could possibly do, because unconditional presence is one of the most healing things on this planet. To give yourself that presence when you're in pain, and not because when you're suppressing your emotions, you're trying to stop this pain, trying to stop these negative emotions. You're actually doing self-abandonment. You're abandoning yourself because that's where you are in that moment. And as soon as you try to make it wrong and stop it, you're doing a form of self-abandonment, and that's what closes the heart. So when you feel more and you learn how to feel, it's a process. You open your heart, and when you open your heart, you're letting in more energy. And like literally, when you master the art of feeling your emotions, you'll have like almost like infinite amounts of energy. Like,
Wow, that was so well articulated, Terrence.
well, thank you. Yes, I'm very passionate about that.
Yeah,
And that's kind of one of the things in the spiritual field that we're lacking is the fact that most people are using it as a method of Novocaine.
avoidance.
Yes, painkillers. And it's like almost like a new addiction. And a lot of people, are turning away from spirituality. Like, they got into spirituality and now they're back to their old ways. Some people are going back to being born again Christians or something. And it's
That
because,
feels like a retreat in a framework too. Like they're scared of something chaotic, so they're going back to what their
yes,
parents did or their grandma did,
yes, and it's basically, it feels safe to them. It feels,
Right.
like home, like, because that's where they came from. And also, it's because the coping mechanism of spirituality wasn't strong enough, so they had to find a better, stronger coping mechanism. But yeah, coping is the opposite of healing. It's coping with the pain is basically you finding ways to stop the pain and not making actual changes in your life that will better your life. It's just to keep yourself in these painful situations and not changing anything about your life and making them better.
I would say that it's the lack of stillness and silence in those painful moments. Like if we were to just sit the way that the elders have made me sit, like when I am the most distraught about something, it's like, great, go sit by a fire with your stillness and your silence until you feel differently about it. Go communicate with the fire and the stars and the earth and ask them what they think about your problem. And that's a method. The silence and the stillness to me is the absence that we have. My business partner Daniel, he is a big fan of when the pain comes up, turn on the playlist that makes you feel the pain deeper and lean into it harder.
Yes.
Um,
That's I love that. I love that. And
yeah.
yeah, pain as is an acronym is pay attention, integrate now.
Oh, I like that
Yes, that one's
one.
from Teal Swan.
Oh, that's a good one. Wow, we've gotten into it's been quite a pocket of time, and I'm you have shared some deeply spiritual treasure nuggets. Before I bring us kind of back to the surface, is there anything in the deep that you want to share, like as we're hanging out talking about frequency and emotional states and how we process? I guess maybe a valid question would be, when you do feel pain, what has been a ritual that has allowed you to lean into it more without avoiding it?
So for me, honestly, it's all about just feeling it. There's nothing really like for me. I need to say if you feel pain or get triggered during the day.
Mm.
A lot of people will just go about their day, like say they're washing their dishes, they get triggered, and then they just continue washing the dishes. Basically, you're telling yourself when you do that that washing these dishes is more important than your internal world, your inner child. You're telling yourself
Mm.
that you're not worth the time, and you're abandoning that part of you. So it's all about making yourself the priority. When you get triggered, stop what you're doing, go to a safe, comfortable place and sit with it. And it's not about sitting with the thoughts of it, ruminating or like thinking about these things that caused this trigger, but it's about feeling the sensations in the body. Like all these emotions can be translated into sensations in the body. And what you do is you just sit with it and you identify these sensations. You do what I like to do is Teal Swan's emotional process, and basically emotional feeling process. And basically you just sit there and then you continually ask yourself what does this feel like. And to me, I feel a lot of emptiness sometimes, like especially in the beginning when you're new to feeling emotions, your body will do this thing called creating a cover emotion. So like say if you're feeling like these really low states, your body will naturally bring you to a different emotional state so that you're not, it's trying to protect you, your subconscious. because it perceives these lower emotional states as harmful. So it creates this cover emotion. Like, say, if you're feeling anger, it's actually a cover emotion for fear. You know, you're there's like a fear that came up, and this anger came up to like protect you from that fear. If you're feeling numb, it's to protect you from shock and from confusion. And if you're feeling, rage and or numbness, this different emotions that make you feel something like, like powerlessness is the lowest emotional state you can be in. It's actually what makes you in alignment with death and being victimized. It will keep you in a state of rage or this state of feeling numb, or it even will cause you to feel unconscious. I've experienced all these things where I'm trying to feel into this lower state of emotion, and then this other emotion comes up.
Yeah, and I was with you because like anger sometimes we cloak our sadness with anger. And it's not until we let ourselves get all the way angry and we realize like, oh, we're just sad. We're just alone.
Yeah, of saying, when you're feeling desperate, it's actually a cover emotion for despair, the complete absence of hope. And like when you're feeling that desperation, it's because you don't want to feel that hopelessness. You don't want to feel, like say if a mother loses her child or something, they desperately try to, undo what's happened. It's because they don't want to, have to face that despair underneath it. But it's actually in feeling these emotions, being present with them. Like even these cover emotions, we should be present with them unconditionally, whatever comes up in whatever way it does. This is all from teachings of Teal Swan. So this is why I feel kind of so you sit with these emotions, you sit with them unconditionally, and then they naturally pass through you. It's when we suppress them that actually keeps them stuck in our body. When we keep them stuck, we know when we suppress them, we try to avoid these emotions. It actually stays in our body and it doesn't flow. And then when what you resist persists. Suppression and avoidance is a form of resistance, and that's why these emotions persist. People can be angry for years because they're not actually allowing themselves to be angry. So the people who have the most problems with anger management are the people who don't allow themselves to be angry. Like deep down, they're the most resistant to anger actually. And we learn this way of thinking about these negative emotions through childhood because we're taught that these emotions are wrong and that these emotions will get us rejected or ostracized by the people in our surroundings. And that's why we do this. And, naturally we're inclined to avoid pain as, anyone with a central nervous system. And so it's really the challenge to go into the emotion. It's like, almost like that analogy with the buffalo, where when there's a storm, what they do instead of running away from the storm, which is what we're doing when running away from the emotion, is they run into the storm because they know that when they get into the storm, they'll be out of it faster. So that's the analogy of emotions, is you have to go into the emotion and go deep into it. And you have to have the attitude of, I'm just with it to be with it, not so that it will go away or change. Not because it's wrong or bad, because that'll actually give it the opposite message, and it's a mode of resistance on its own. You have to be very present and just know that it's there for a reason, and there's nothing wrong with feeling it. And that's a process. It takes a while. For me, I've been working on it for many months now, of just sitting with my emotions, and it's hard. Sometimes I do just feel inclined to escape my emotions by stuffing my face with food. I'm not in shape right now. I use food as a coping mechanism. That's my drug of choice, is overeating. And yeah, and anything can be used as a coping mechanism or a way to avoid your pain, including spirituality, if used in the wrong way.
I really appreciate all of what you're highlighting, because I got to tell you that the most spiritual people, practicing spiritual people I've met, tend to be singers, because they get really intimate with how vibration changes the atmosphere of a room or a space. They've used their own voice to kind of hypnotize themselves into transcendental spaces, and you become a little more dialed in to the unseen. And I believe that there's muscles outside of the body. And one of the first ways that we can interact with those is through our voice. And everything that you're sharing is all about purging, creating this flow. But this flow is not the most comfortable to start to get intimate with. It's sometimes kind of wildly uncomfortable. Um, and everything that you just shared, I think, was kind of like a masterclass of, the basics of feeling into yourself and enjoying the silence and the stillness. And ironically, like I use breath and body tension to bring people back into themselves.
Yes, it can be used both ways. So
Yeah.
what you're doing now, like for me, I like to breathe in as by the way, for those watching, I really recommend the book The Completion Process by Teal Swan. It goes over how to feel very, very in depth. But so um when you do this breath work, for me, when I was started learning breath work, I was actually one of those people who wanted to avoid their pain and wanted to avoid their emotions. So I would use breath work to breathe so I could feel better. Breathe so that I could feel better and not feel this pain. And now I use the breath to embrace the emotion. It's almost like the breath acts as a way to hug the emotion rather than push it away. And that's why intention is so important. The intention is everything. Whatever you intend is what happens.
Hmm. Wow, you're just full of like beautiful spiritual golden nuggets. There's so many words that you're saying where I'm like, oh, I needed to hear that. Oh, I needed to hear that. Like, oh, what a solid reminder. Um, I've been having these like crazy nightmares and I've been waking up angry instead of grateful, which is like an unusual feeling for me. And then I just kind of get up and I go through my process and like really I should probably wake up and sit under my favorite tree and kind of dialogue with what's happening in the
Yeah.
unseen.
Yeah, and also like what we're, it's possible that that anger is not even yours, but at the same time, I think being present with it will allow it to flow through you anyway. Like, why are you angry? Do you?
Terrence, I feel like with the channel getting bigger, I'm at like 186,000. I feel way more dialed in to the collective unconscious than I've ever been in my whole life. And I was somebody who very much ignored the news, ignored social media before. But I almost feel like these dreams that I'm getting are part of this like collective unconscious. And then they get fabricated through like symbols and metaphor. And then I'm supposed to distill it into like a message, into a framework, into a paradigm shift of kind of calling out in a tactful and a gracious and a solution minded way, the illusion that's being presented. And I feel like there's a schism that is being promoted to keep people divided and incoherent. We're not only with themselves, but maybe even with their partner. And I keep having these dreams, but when I distill the dreams, they feel like they're trying to bring us back into our humanness, into the fact that we are all masculine and feminine. And it's in the coherence and our harmony of our own field that we can find this state of harmony. But there's also all this crazy news coming out about like Hollywood and the Epstein files and, kind of like the normalcy of issues with children and aliens are real and there's like free energy technology that's being suppressed so that we can stay on the grid. So there's lots of new information. Like AI brings up all of this certainty and uncertainty and potential confusion. So how do we process as a collective all of this
It's definitely
newness?
very hard. Yes, I can see that. For me, I just like to focus on what I can control in the now. Like I know those things are very valid to fear and to have all these concerns, and your emotions are very valid on that. I'm not dismissing that at all. I think you should take that, and if it makes you feel a certain way, you should feel those things, like unconditionally. For me, though, I just at this point in time, I feel called that I will make a difference in this world, and I'm putting all my energy because wherever you focus, your energy flows. And right now, I'm focusing on nothing but what I want to do for the world. And right now, I'm just trying to build my platform so that I can gain the resources needed to make the changes that I need to make in my lifetime. And that's what I plan to do. Because I do plan on making major world change. I do plan on many things that are still, I'm not going to share right now, but I know it's going to make a major impact on the world for the better, and that's my aim.
For the people who desire to watch your process, and I actually have no doubt that you will create change as a person who can embody both lightning and thunder.
Yes.
What is where can people find you? Where can they follow you? And his show notes, if they include his e-course for throat singing, if they're not here, just check back, because when that comes out, I would love to help promote it.
Well, thank you.
But where can people witness your journey?
So my name is actually the same across all platforms, Throat Sing King. So if you just type in Throat Sing King in any platform, you'll find me. So basically, it's throat singing without any space and add a K after the G. Throat Sing King. I made that name specifically so that I'd be easier to find. Just put throat singing in, and then I would still be an option. And the K is just an extra thing. I didn't want to just be throat singing.
Perfect. I really appreciate the time and the energy of this conversation. I really felt like we tapped into some good little pockets there. We went deep. Is there anything else that you'd like to share with my audience before we call this?
So, Caucasus came to me in a dream, actually. That's why I would never come up with that on my own, or like wanted to go as Caucasus. What is that? So I was having a dream where, I know I keep mentioning Teal Swan, and it's like probably annoying for many people, but so Teal Swan appeared in my dream. And there's this thing that happens when you do this inner work, you do all these integrative processes where you end up really creating changes in your frequency. Your name, who you are, like, your name as in like say your name is Brooke, right? All these names have a frequency, and it's actually when, like, in our pre-birth intention to come out as these names, like our parents name us these names, but it's actually our higher self or our higher perspective that influences them to name us a specific thing. So for me, Terrence has a specific frequency, and my name has a specific frequency for who I will be. Like, your name means a lot in this lifetime. It dictates a lot about you. And for me, I asked Teal in this dream, is what my name, is it accurate to what my frequency is? Am I even a vibrational match to my name anymore? And she says, no. The name that you're most a match to is Caucasus. And I'm like, what's Caucasus? And I didn't know what that was, Caucasus, and she had to repeat it for me. And then I woke up and I remembered that very clearly, and I Googled it. And Caucasus is a mountain range or a region in between Asia and Europe. And basically it's highly culturally diverse. And they consider it to be a bridge between the East and the West, between the North and the South, because it is like literally in the center of Asia and Europe. And it's like what bridges these people together. And that's why I feel like, it goes in tune with what I'm doing with my throat singing. I'm doing chants from the East and from the West. And I noticed that when I do these chants, like say if I'm doing a Norse pagan chant, I noticed that there are Indian people and people from Asia commenting on these and saying they love it. And then I see the same thing from the Norse pagans when I'm doing these chants from the East, from Hindu and Buddhist traditions, where a lot of Norse pagans are like, oh, I love this, I love the energy of this. It's almost like I'm exposing them to each other's cultures and I'm bridging them together. And that's what I guess I didn't really intend for that to happen, but it's just what naturally came to me in wanting to do all these chants. And that dream came after I started doing that. So it's almost like it goes hand in hand.
I gotta tell you, King Caucasus has like this little bit of a ring to it.
Yes. In Mongolian culture, king is Khan. So I actually, in some of my social media, I go as Caucasus Khan. Like Genghis Khan, but
yeah.
Caucasus
that's
Khan.
Beautiful. I gotta tell you, you really, sitting here for the last couple hours looking at your handsome face, I gotta tell you, you kind of bridge a lot of different nationalities. To hear that you're Filipino, I definitely thought you were Spanish and Latin because of your name, but yet it's there very easy to see a Mongolian kind of that kind of coexist with, and you have the big barrel chest too, which is honestly like not as you, it's not a common feature, and it makes an incredible singer.
Yes, I appreciate that. And I have honestly had such a great time talking to you on this podcast. I really appreciate this opportunity to be featured on here. And I thank you.
Yeah, thank you, Terrence. I really appreciate the wisdom that you brought for all of us.
Yes, thank you.